When thinking of aliens in America, what comes to mind? There is no doubt that for most people, it's Area 51. But why exactly is this military facility in the Nevada desert the focus of so many conspiracy theories? And is there any truth to them? In this episode, we will explore the history behind the site, why it became so notorious, and what goes on there today. I'm your host, Rachel Payton, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Time. Let's dive into Area 51. Around 120 miles from Las Vegas, you'll find what was once a wildlife reservation in the 1930s. But due to the circumstances of World War II, the land was taken over by the Department of War in 1942 and made into an aerial gunnery range. Once the war was over, the Department of War kept the land. There is 38,000 acres on the desert property that makes it ideal for the military to use. During the Cold War, the United States would conduct low-flying recon missions over the Soviet Union, but there were extreme worries of them being caught and shot down. Due to the high risk, President Eisenhower approved the development of high-altitude recon aircraft project that was top secret. It was named Project Aquatone and needed a location that wasn't easily accessible to spies or citizens. The project also required an isolated location, and since the territory was already familiar with the military, Area 51 became the ideal location for the project. The U-2 aircraft was groundbreakingly tested at this site during the project. The U-2 plane flew 60,000 feet in the air, while at the time, military planes flew only 40,000 and commercial planes 10,000 feet. Pilots began spotting things in the sky and reporting them to air traffic control. Because the pilots were unaware of the U-2 testing, they were calling these spottings unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. The project was being kept top secret due to not wanting our enemies to know what kind of technology we have for the war, so the military decided to say that the sightings are high weather altitude research or natural phenomenons. It was much too late though. People heard UFO and made their own versions of the story. The testing of the U-2 aircraft ended in the late 1950s, but they continued to test other military planes there. Where the project was so secretive, people assumed something insane must be going on. Oh, and because the government refused to acknowledge the location. It sits on an unmarked dirt road on Nevada's extraterrestrial highway between mile marker 29 and 30. Employees actually travel there by unmarked government-owned planes from the Las Vegas International Airport. So if you're ever at the airport, keep an eye out for an unmarked plane. They may be going to Area 51. Area 51 made big news in the 1980s when Robert Bob Lazar did an interview on May 24, 1989 with investigative reporter George Knapp on KLAS Las Vegas. During the interview, Lazar used the name Dennis and said he worked for a section of Area 51 called S4. He said his job was to reverse engineer extraterrestrial aircraft. Some months would go by, but then Lazar would come out publicly and said the government was out to get him because of what he said. He would keep his information coming, saying that the government had in their possession 9 captured or crashed spacecraft. And he says what makes them work is a chemical element with the atomic number 115 that allows a spacecraft to defy gravity. Lazar says his reason for being fired from Area 51 was that he brought some friends into the desert near Area 51 to watch a saucer being flown, but he ended up being caught and let go. And that's the story he claimed. But is there actually any truth to Bob Lazar's claims? Well, let me tell you what I do know. He said he went to Caltech and MIT, but neither institution has any records of him attending, and his high school grades actually indicate someone who would not be accepted into either school. According to him, though, the government has erased all records from when he attended. Lazar also claims to be a physicist, saying he worked at the Los Alamos physics facility. And yeah, he did work there, but only as a technician, not a physicist. And in 1990, Lazar was arrested for aiding and abetting a prostitution ring. In 2006, he and his wife were charged with violating the Federal Hazardous Substance Act for shipping restricted chemicals across state lines. And as of today, he owns a scientific equipment and supply store named United Nuclear. In 2017, his workplace was raided by the FBI. The raid was to determine if his company sold chemicals to a murder suspect, but Lazar claims that the FBI did it to recover element 115, which he has hinted at having. Recently, he has been featured on Joe Rogan's podcast, unfortunately giving him a platform. Today, there is zero evidence proving Bob Lazar ever touched foot in Area 51. No, I'm not saying weird things don't go down there. I'm just saying let's at least believe a reliable source. People do truly believe Lazar, and he has become somewhat of a legend in the extraterrestrial community. It didn't help matters when the government waited until the year of 2013 to officially acknowledge Area 51. They acknowledged it because of classified documents from the CIA detailing the history of the U-2 plane and what location was used. But here's my question. If those documents never came out, would we even know about Area 51 today? I'd have to say it's highly unlikely. People often go out to Rachel, Nevada in an attempt to get a peek of the base, but it's heavily restricted, with armed guards patrolling the site, buried motion sensors underground, and signs saying that deadly force will be used if necessary. Satellite imagery of Area 51 had been restricted, but in 2018, the base became visible on Google Earth. Today, the site is used as an open training range for the United States Air Force, but no one knows for certain what truly goes on there. In 2019, a Facebook joke started by Maddie Roberts got a bit too serious. The post said, "Storm Area 51. They can't stop us all." The date was set for September 20th, and more than 2 million people RSVP'd. The FBI actually came to Roberts' house to investigate the situation, and as time got closer, the county of Lincoln estimated that a whopping 30,000 people may actually attend this thing. But in the end, only 6,000 people came out to the raid-turned-alien fest. Ultimately, people just hung out, played music, and sold alien-themed merchandise without anyone attempting to actually raid Area 51. Area 51 isn't the only place that is famous for its supposed presence of aliens. In July of 1947, a New Mexico rancher discovered a wreckage on his property near Roswell. In the debris he found, there was tinfoil, rubber, and paper. He took some of what he found and brought it to the Roswell sheriff, who then took it to the commanding officer of the Roswell Army Airfield, or RAAF. Initially, and shockingly, authorities did say the debris were from a flying saucer, but then they quickly retracted their statement, saying it was just debris from a military balloon. But many people doubt that. Today, people visit Roswell to stay in alien-themed hotels, bars, and to see the International UFO Museum and Research Center. Some people refer to Roswell as the UFO capital of the world. The government has also been curious about UFOs. In March of 1952, the Air Force did a project called Project Blue Book, the codename for the systematic study of identified flying objects. There were 2 goals for the project: scientifically analyze UFO-related data and determine if UFOs were a threat to national security. Thousands of UFOs were reported, but ultimately, it was concluded that most of them were just clouds or stars. The project was terminated in 1969. The suspicion of UFOs and aliens have been around for a long time, and it doesn't seem as if they're going anywhere. Maybe as time goes on, we will get more answers, but we will just have to see. Area 51 will continue to be a mystery for now. Thank you for listening to this episode over Area 51, you aliens. If you like this episode, tell your fellow Earthlings or leave me a rating and review. New episodes are uploaded every Wednesday. If you have an episode suggestion or want to talk history, email me at the Chronicles of Time podcast at gmail.com. I'm your host, Rachel Payton, and you just listened to the Chronicles of Time.